Hello there. So, one of my very favorite quotes is that success leaves clues. And today I want to share some of the clues I've discovered from one of my very favorite mindset experts, who's also incredibly successful with her online business. So, let's get to it.
Welcome to the Course Creators HQ podcast, helping you navigate the latest techniques for creating and marketing online courses. And now, here is your host, Julie Hood.
So, welcome to episode 72 of the podcast. We're finishing up 2021, and I'm always reflecting back on what I've learned through the year, plus looking at what I'm going to change in the year ahead. And last week, one of my very favorite experts, Brooke Castillo, released a podcast episode that really got my attention. So I wanted to share some of the secrets and the knowledge that I got from her with you. First, let me say I'm not affiliated or partnered with Brooke at all. She doesn't know me, and I've actually never signed up for her monthly coaching program, or at least I haven't yet. I think it's on the horizon. So everything I'm sharing with you today is as a fan looking from the outside at what I've noticed about what she's doing and what I like about what she's doing, so that maybe there's a few things here that you can also apply to your business. Also, I have two purposes for this episode. The first one is to share some of the clues from how Brooke has been building her online business in case you can use some of those same techniques in yours. But the second is I want to share a couple of the mindset secrets that I've learned from her that I think could really be helpful for you as you move forward in the year ahead. So let's start with those success clues that I noticed. Brooke has an incredibly successful podcast that she has hosted for years. It's called the Life Coach School Podcast. And in fact, she's about to hit episode 400, I think. So she is one of those experts that I have been listening to and following on her podcast for years. I almost always catch her episodes of her podcast, and I'll be honest, I haven't bought anything from her, I don't think ever until this week, which is surprising to me because I've been listening to her for so long and I really like her approach and what she does. So she's just been regularly filling my head with really good ideas in her podcast for years and years and years. And it built up this wealth of expertise and credibility with me that when she offered a new program this week, I jumped on it. And so the clue for you to think about is, how can you communicate regularly to sort of build that following that may take them a while to actually purchase for you, but how will you build and connect with your audience, with the people who are your perfect potential students? You know, it might be podcasting, but it might be doing Facebook Lives, or it might be doing YouTube, or maybe you're a blogger, maybe you really like to write, and so you want to attract those people that like to read what you have to say. So think about that. What is the way that you're going to put your thoughts, your knowledge, your expertise, what you've noticed out into the world regularly? And that regularly part is essential. So figuring out what your regular term is. Is it weekly? Is it every couple weeks? I'd like for it to be one of those, you know, when you start getting out to once a month, you sort of lose people. So try to get to weekly or bi-weekly, and having some way to communicate with your audience that in that time period. And then second clue I've noticed that is that she put together probably 10 years ago now, I think, her own framework that she calls the model. And she developed it early on in her coaching business, and it has become a foundation around everything that she talks about. And it's a whole approach to mindset. It's a whole language. There's specific tools and techniques, and the way people talk about using the model has become its own language. So this framework has been essential to building her business. And so I want you to think about the clue for you is what kind of framework can you put together around what you're teaching that can become your cornerstone, that's your foundation around how you are helping people and getting results for people. So for example, one of my frameworks is the 24-hour course creator. I put together that framework of how you can do a course in just 24 hours. And so that's sort of a foundation of where I get people started with working with me. So think about the clue for you is thinking about your own framework and how you could put something like that together that is a framework that your students follow as they are working with you. Okay, third, I also want to talk about how she sold this mini course last week. So she started promoting it on the podcast, and it's called the What's Possible Coach Week. And it's 5 days of coaching with her the premise is basically to help other coaches. She primarily works with life coaches, but even though I'm not a life coach, I really do like what she has to say. And the purpose of the What's Possible Coach Week was to get us thinking about what is actually possible for us to accomplish in the year ahead in our businesses. And so she promoted it by email several times. She promoted it on her podcast. She even did 5 bonus episodes of her podcast last week that was part of this promotion. So to help talking about what's possible and help get more awareness out there for this week. The pricing was also really good. It was only $97. Her timing, I want to say, is excellent because as we're rolling up the end of this year, thinking about what's possible for the year ahead is just perfect. It was a really good idea. And so I signed up for the What's Possible Coach Week, and she's giving me just the perfect way to really experience what it's like to work with her, what it's like to be a student, and what her membership, which is her primary product that she sells, her scholars program is what she calls it, to see what that membership is like. She's also letting us apply the $97 that we paid for this coach week and apply it to the first month in our membership. So unfortunately, the What's Possible program, I think, is closed right now, so you can't jump in if you wanted to. But I think it might be available as part of her full membership, as part of her scholars program. So when I know that for sure, I'll put a note in the show notes to let you know if you can get access to it if you're interested. I'll put it in the show notes at coursecreatorshq.com/72, and that will let you know if you can still get access to it. Okay, so the clue for you around this is how can you use a trial of some kind to let people know what it's like to work with you, what it's like to be a student of yours. So maybe it's a mini course that they can sign up for. Maybe it's a free 5-day challenge or something else. What is the way that you're going to let people experience what it's like to be a student for you? And I've mentioned before, and I'll mention it again, my 5-day challenge worked really, really well the last time I launched 24-hour Course Creator. So we're doing it again in January. We're going to have the 5-day free challenge. So keep your eye out for that so that you can jump in and get a chance to work with me more closely. And think about what can you do that could be similar to this. It doesn't necessarily have to be this elaborate. You may just have a masterclass where people get a chance to experience working with you and you do some Q&A coaching on the back end of it. But come up with a way for people to try you out and see if they like the way you teach. Okay, now let's move over to the second part of this episode. And I want to talk about mindset a little bit. And when I say mindset, I'm talking about the internal messaging and thoughts that you say to yourself all day long about your courses, about your business, about your students. And I also want to throw in the motivation you have to keep going. And, how excited are you every day to work on your course business? And if you're not excited, what do you do to shift that and to get back to where you're in a place where you can jump in and you really want to help your students? So all of that is what I lump into what I call mindset. And I have several different people who I work with on this. Some of them, like Brooke, she doesn't even know she's one of my mindset coaches. But I also work with Erica Ross-Krieger, episode 28, which I'll link to. We talked all about mindset, and she has some really phenomenal mindset programs. So be sure and check her out. And so through all of this, one thing I've noticed is that what helps one person with their mindset might not be the right fit when it comes to the mindset coach for somebody else. So you need to experiment a lot and figure out who really resonates with you. And it's okay if some coaches drive you crazy. Those are just not the perfect coaches for you. Keep looking for somebody else who has a different approach, a different way of looking at it, so that you can find the right person to help you with mindset. So on the first day of the What's Possible Coach Week, Brooke shared 10 beliefs with us that she considered to be essential ones for being successful with your business and with making more money. And so there's 3 of them that I think could be really transformational for you. They're all really good, but I don't feel like I should share all of them. But I thought these 3 would be really interesting for you. So let's talk about them a little bit. The first one she shared is that we know failure is the price of success. We know failure is the price of success. So let that one sink in for a minute. And the way she describes this is that in order to get to the level that you want, you're going to fail a lot in the process of trying to figure it all out. And I will tell you, when I started my business, it took me a long, long time to, number one, understand this, and then number 2, to actually be okay with failing. Because if you think about it, the way our school systems are set up and the way we train our kids, oh no, you shouldn't ever, ever, ever get an F. You never want to fail. You need to work really hard and just get really good grades. And so getting to this point where you're okay with failing because you know that that's getting you closer to the answer, that took me a long time to be okay with. So depending on where you're at, you might need to work on that one a little bit. The second mindset thing and belief that she shared with us was that extraordinarily successful women know that life is 50-50. And my interpretation of that is that 50% of the time, life is going to be amazing and wonderful and terrific and the top of the roller coaster. And 50% of the time, it may be in the bottom of the trough of the roller coaster, on the downside and the negative. And that once you acknowledge that it's going to be 50-50, it's not like we can just keep working and we'll get to this blissful place where it's 100% happy all the time. When you can acknowledge that, you know what, we're going to have this balance of good and bad, negative and positive emotions. Once that realization hits you, then you can just focus on, okay, how can I make the highs as high as possible, as opposed to trying to be this happy 100% of the time. So she's much better at teaching it, but I know that one hit me when I first heard it. I was like, wow, life is 50-50? Really? Really? That's how it works, huh? So try that one on for size and see what you think. And then the third one is, we know that creating value is what creates money, and we know how to create value. So in my mind, this is my interpretation, creating value is the same as creating results, creating a transformation, using your course to help someone change or make their life different because they have gone through your online course, because they've worked with you, because they've coached with you, because they've done your training. You are changing their lives and in the same aspect, creating value. So those three I thought were just incredible knowledge bombs that I wanted to make sure you heard as you roll into the new year. Things for you to think about as you're moving forward. And Brooke has so much to teach. Like, there's her membership, from my understanding, has thousands of hours of coaching in it. So I've put a bunch of links to her stuff in the show notes at coursecreatorshq.com/72 if you want to explore her a little bit more. I'd start with her podcast, especially some of the older episodes. I think were even better than some of the new ones when she was first talking about some of these concepts. So like I said at the beginning, I'm not affiliated with her, but I really like to share what's working for me just in case it's something that could be helpful for you too as you're moving forward. I like to spread the knowledge as I find something. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, gave you some food for thought. And I also want to say thank you so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing, or in Apple Podcasts, thank you for clicking those three little dots in the top right and following us. Thank you for reviewing the podcast. I really appreciate you and the time that I get to spend with you each week. So we will catch you next week on the next episode of the podcast. Enjoy, have a fantastic week, and I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season with friends and family. So take care. Talk to you soon.